Take two, and now action. As of course, we end up having one game already decided. That would be yes, sirree, Miami falling to Green Bay Packers 20-26, as Green Bay is still inexplicably alive for the playoffs. So Miami's still definitely in it, but yeah, I think if they tend to drop too many of these late, that would definitely erode confidence going into the playoffs in January. So let's get to, of course, right to the winning team as far as fantasy fallout goes. That would be Green Bay Packers, who started their defense, 11 points. Not too bad, but definitely better, I would say, than some running backs and wide receivers, and uh, definitely the tight ends as we look at the key offensive players for Green Bay. That would be, of course, Aaron Rodgers, who 13.32 points, one touchdown, one interception. Next relevant player, that would be A.J. Dillon, 1280, did get a touch on the ground. Mercedes Lewis, there's a name blast from the past, who did get a touch in the air. So that's what helped him stay fantasy relevant, 11.20. And Alan Lazard in at 11.10. And not scanning any touchdowns, but still not too bad with the PPR. And Christian Watson, who did get 10.90, almost 11 points, kept out of the end zone, decent PPR. But of course, the heartbreak news of the day, especially if you're trying to ride your hopes on his fantasy day, as he's definitely had some surprisingly superstar games. He was out for the rest of the game and pretty much missed most of the second half. So yeah, kind of monitor his status going forward. We're getting used to this as far as fantasy football this year, aren't we? As far as some non-contributing players, as far as the fantasy fallout goes, some definitely surprising names. Of course, Romeo Dobbs, not even 7 fantasy points. Aaron Jones, barely, almost 5.5 points, barely. And that's pretty much if you did a dart throw on Robert Toyan, yeah, you're probably scratching your head there. Yeah, somebody actually started Randall Cobb. You're definitely scratching your head on that one. And I'm looking, nope, nobody else pretty much rostered at all. So that pretty much takes care of the relevant fantasy names. Now we'll go to the losers. Yeah, that would be the Miami has a football team, not the greatest in the land today. Starting off, of course, with the Jalen Waddle, who is definitely the superstar of both teams and the best fantasy contributor from this game. 25, that's easy for me to say, 25.30 points with a touchdown, some very nice PPR. So we are definitely talking WR1. Now, maybe WR2 or WR3 for a unlikely person that you usually tend not to assign that distinction to. That would be one Tyreek Hill, who was kept out of the end zone, got decent PPR. He had a really great catch the first half, but then just sort of seemed to a little bit here, a little bit there, nothing really explosive. Of course, if you had to roll with Tua Tagovailoa for any reason, either because maybe your primary quarterback was injured or hurt. Yeah, you're definitely not having a fun day as he barely had just a scotch under 12 fantasy points, 11.40, one touchdown, but then 3 interceptions, and the very particularly brutal one that everyone was probably screaming at the TV, "What the bleep are you doing?" It was nice seeing him back, at least maybe not in great RB1 or RB2 fashion, but at least RB3 or flex. It's nice seeing him back on the field. Jeff Wilson Jr., he did grab a touchdown on the ground, helped him stay fantasy relevant for the day. Some folks who weren't fantasy relevant, some definitely surprising names. That'd be Raheem Mostert, not even 5 fantasy points. Just, yeah. Uh, no, shit, Mr. Sherfield wasn't even really rostered, only rostered 1% league, so not worth mentioning. Mike Gesicki, another one, definitely rostered, but only 29%. You're not surprised when he doesn't even top 4 fantasy points in the day. And checking to see, is there anybody else? Nope. Nobody fairly relevant at all. Have to be wondering if fans are going, can we try out Bridgewater next week after this week? And you just have to wonder, did did Tua recover from the absolute smackdown that the 49ers ended up giving Miami Dolphins recently? So, oof. And checking in on the second game, it's not pretty. I remember going, yeah, Denver's playing better than the Rams, so they should be able to handle him. And of course, what's going on? Yeah, that would be at halftime. Rams are absolutely kicking the living spit out of the Broncos, 31-3, with Russell Wilson, 2 interceptions, 90 yards. Baker Mayfield looking like the Mayfield of old, the good Baker, uh, buck 85, 2 touchdowns, zilch for interceptions. And as far as rushing goes, yeah, not so much there. It's pretty much mostly it's Mayfield and the receiving. No touchdowns for Jerry Judy, but the 47 yards. Cortland Sutton 32, and yeah. So it's let's see who got all the scoring as we glance for. Not too much going on for the Broncos. Broncos, it's field goals only for the Broncos. That never gets the job done, kids. As we've got, yeah, it's pretty much on the ground. Looks like it. Yeah, it looks like it's the Cam Akers show. So you started Cam Akers. You're having a fun weekend there. He has 2 touchdowns. Uh, Baker Mayfield passed, of course, to Tyler Higbee. So he's having a decent fantasy day, but oh, definitely fantasy day. So it's 2 touchdowns to Tyler Higbee and 2 touchdowns for Cam Akers. So yeah, Rams just all over the Broncos. Is so much for let's ride and let Russ cook. I think at this point it should be let Russ simmer because he ain't doing too well. It's not a fun time in Denver land or Bronco land. You sort of wonder if they would rather have a time machine and go back in time and negate the Russell Wilson trade. And it's like, yeah, can we just negate him? We'll just go with somebody else because this is horrid. This is one of the best meme trends, I think. Every time somebody says, let's ride, and then you have the ride, and then some hilarious video of somebody absolutely failing completely miserably. And my final thought as I glance over and I notice it's, yay, down to 40 degrees again. Yeah, I know we have snowstorms and uh, power grid issues in Texas and flights getting canceled everywhere, all across the nation. But yeah, can we get it up to the 70s? I would be even happy with 60s because yeah, this is just reminding me why I would not make a good northerner. And bonus final thought: Merry Christmas to everybody who is enjoying opening presents in the tree. Happy Hanukkah to everyone who's enjoying lighting the last night of lights and eating potato latkes and all that good stuff. And here's hoping you all stay safe and warm during the Christmas into New Year's week. As it's just kind of a weird week. I just remember working retail. It's sort of like it sort of feels like it's coming down, and then New Year's come, and then everything ramps back up again as people sort of like, oh, we have to get the champagne, we have to get this and that, and blah 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 blah. Get ready for New Year's and all that. So stay safe during this week and happy holiday, whatever you celebrate it. And I'm gonna put a cork in it now. So I'm Joel Verlin, and come on, Broncos, come back during the second half. Do something, please. Okay, talk to you next update.